In this Camtasia tutorial, I want to show you everything you need to know about recording and editing your videos in Camtasia. As you watch behind my shoulder from start to finish, we're gonna go over everything here in this video. I have been using Camtasia for about the past 3 years now. If you look at my channel, you'll see that my last 200, maybe 300 or so videos have been recorded and edited using Camtasia. So it's a very easy to use software, very simple. It's not as complicated as Adobe Premiere, but at the same time, it allows me to make really sophisticated and good looking edits on the videos. And so I'm gonna show you everything here in this video. We will go in chronological order. We'll go step by step. So I'll first start off by showing you where you can go if you want to get your own copy of Camtasia. Then I'm gonna show you how to upload a video or how to record a video if you so choose to. I'm gonna show you how to edit the video on the timeline. I'm going to show you different tools that you can then use to make your video look cooler, different animations, different effects, really cool stuff. Can't wait to show you. And then I'm going to show you how to actually export the video and have it out and ready to post. All right, so we will get into it. Before we do, guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so that other people can see this video if you liked it and more people can benefit from it. And don't forget to hit the notification bell icon if you want to stay up to date and see more videos like this where I show you how to use various tools to boost your online marketing game. All right, so let's get straight into it. So step one, you got to get Camtasia if you don't have it. So if you guys head over to go.ivanmana.com/techsmith, it's my affiliate link. However, you can download it from here, and depending on the time, they might have a certain promotion. So Camtasia is going to be this one over here. So if you click buy now, you'll have the options. You can choose what you want there. And it's really cool. So it comes with a lot of stuff. It comes with a license. It's compatible whether you're on Windows or on a Mac. And I am on a Windows, by the way. So on a Mac, it might look a little bit different for you, but it's going to be pretty much the same. And then it comes with a free upgrade, stuff like that. All right. Now, the cool thing about it is it does come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So obviously, if you check it out and you find that it's not what you're looking for, you can always get a full refund, no questions asked. So once you install it, once you add to cart, once you make the purchase, you might see something. And then here, they give you a free trial as well. So you actually, even better than a money-back guarantee because it looks like you might not even have to pay, right? So then once you do, step two now is actually opening files, recording a video if you want it. So over here, this is the first thing you'll see once you actually download Camtasia. So you'll see these options here where you can learn, you can get some resources. Don't worry about that. The goal of this video is to get you very familiar with Camtasia so you don't even have to do that. So you can start a new project. This is basically like open new file in Microsoft Word, things like that. You can start a new file from an existing template. You can open a project if you already created something and you want to open it, or you can record a new video. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to go ahead and select this option here from the recent projects list. So this is a video we're going to edit together just so you guys can get a feel for Camtasia and I can show you all the cool features. So I'm going to double click it. I'm going to let it open. So this is the first thing you're going to see once you actually open up Camtasia. In your case, if you selected new project, you might see something like this minus this recording, right? So this is the one we'll be using to edit. So if you want to import your own file, your own MP4 file that you want to edit, what you're going to do is simply drag and drop it into the timeline. So you would open up your files and you would just drag it in here, or you can click on this little plus sign under this media tab right here. Click on that, click on import media, and you'll simply be able to select the file you want to import. Very easy, very straightforward. And it's going to just show up right here. Now, if you want to record a video with Camtasia, you're just simply going to click on record right over here. And you're going to see some options here. Don't worry about this. This is because I'm already recording, so you won't see that pop up. You have some options here, so you can choose to show the screen or not show the screen. So depending on what you want to record, you can choose a camera, a webcam. So if I select this option here, it's going to open up my other webcam, OBS virtual one. I don't know what that is. So I went ahead and selected a different camera. As you can see, I only see a part of me because the camera is covering me, right? But this is going to be your webcam. So if you have a webcam, you can connect a third-party one. You can use your default one, whatever you want to use. This is your mic. and this is your system audio. So if you have sounds like mouse clicks or maybe Windows system errors, things like that, this is going to be where you can set this to off or on. So depending on what you want. Now, if you go into tools and you go into preferences, what you should also look for is under files. You want to make sure that you set where you want the default folder output to be. So where do you want to save these recordings? This is going to be your default folder. And then temporary storage, if anything goes wrong, if a video crashes midway, anything like that, you can save your video right here. So where would you like that to be? So just make sure you select these so you know where your videos are going to be held, where they're going to be uploaded to once it's done. Alternatively, you can select this option here that says prompt for file name. And what's going to happen here is whenever you're done recording, Camtasia is going to ask you, hey, where do you want to save this file? So you can choose that if you want. I usually leave it at automatic and I select my folder. And then under general, you can look at, you can play around with some of these options. You can go into shortcuts and you can set shortcuts for when you want to stop a recording, when you want to pause a recording, things like that. So that looks good. I'm going to close out of this because, well, we've already recorded a video, but all you're going to do is hit record. You're going to record it and it's going to automatically show up here like this. So it's going to have a separate sound file and it's going to have a separate screen file, which is this screen right here. Now, one more thing I do suggest you do before we actually get into the editing is if you hit into, if you click on edit and you go down to preferences and you go to advanced here, two things you should check. One is to set your graphics card, whichever graphics card you want to use. And the second thing is to also change the temporary storage folder here as well. So you're going to have the temporary storage folder for when you record and for this actual editing. So I suggest you make sure you are comfortable with wherever these videos are being saved to. And one more thing, if you go into program, check the autosave settings. So make sure your work does get autosaved because sometimes Camtasia can crash or sometimes your computer can crash, whatever. So you want to make sure you save your work as often as possible. These are some of the most important things I would suggest you go into and change. Everything else is kind of, you can play around and see based on your personal preference and stuff like that. So shortcuts, that's up to you. The timing for the default settings of certain animations that we'll be adding, you can change it here. And that's basically it. So that is how we add a video. We went through some of the settings you have to do. So let's go over briefly how you can edit your video. And then we're going to go over all the different cool features, all of these features here on the left-hand side, so you can see exactly how to use them. So let's start off with the basic play settings here. So this is where you can choose whether you want to play the video, whether you want to, skip ahead a little bit. Over here, you can go frame by frame. So you can go, 1 millisecond ahead or back. And later on, as you become more familiar with Camtasia, you'll learn of the different shortcuts. So for example, the comma on my Windows machine will take me back a frame and the period will take me forward. And in fact, if you hover over these buttons, it will tell you. See there in parentheses, it says comma. So that's how you go back. So later on, once you start doing many edits, this is going to become second nature. It's going to be much faster for you to use the hotkeys, of course. In the world, making money online. And so in this video, I want to play the video here by hitting space as well. Show you exactly. And then over here, you will go to the previous media. So this is one media file right here, or let's say this one. This is one media file. So you can skip, you can go to the end of that, you can go to the beginning. So if you have multiple different media files, you'll be able to skip that way. And if you click on properties over here, you'll just be able to adjust the properties for each individual element here, or media file. And each one will have its own set of properties. So we'll get into that as well in more detail once we actually start editing. So that's these options here. Next, you have these options, which are pretty straightforward as well. So you have the undo and the redo, which have the same shortcuts, Control-Z, Control-Y. You have cut, copy, paste, again, with the same shortcuts. So if you want to cut this, I can Control-C, Control-V, and boom, now I've just duplicated this file. I'm gonna hit delete by clicking backspace or clicking delete. Then you have this option here, which is split. So let's suppose I want to go over here and I want to split this media file into two, because let's suppose I want to put some images or some other video or recording in between these two spots. So what I'm going to do is hover over here And we have to select which media you want to split. Let's suppose I want to split this one. I can split it like that. Or let's suppose I want to split everything in this field here. I'm going to select it like that, and I'm going to hit split. And now it's going to split everything. And now I can move this, and I can also play around with the media. So I can go from previous media to the next media, see how now it works like that. And let's suppose, oops, I made a mistake. I want to go back. That's one way of doing it, is you can redo. Now, another thing you can do if you do cut it like this is if you cut it, and let's suppose I accidentally deleted a part of a video, right? What you can do is Camtasia actually still saves everything. So what you can do is over here, you can simply drag it. And now this is going to be the exact same thing as this that we cut in. So if you accidentally delete this part, by accident, and there's no way you can recover it, no problem. You just grow a new one like a Hydra, right? And then I'm going to quickly zoom in and out by using Control and my mouse wheel up and down buttons. And then you can expand the video. Now I've only left it at 10 minutes to make this video simpler and not show my usual, 30 to hour-long minute videos. But that's this option here. Next, you have a add exported frame. So if you like a specific frame, let's suppose I really like this frame and I want to stress it, I can click here and it's going to save this thing as an image, right? This specific frame that I can use later on, and it's going to add it right here. But I'm going to delete it. Next, you have the zoom in and out of the timeline. So this will become more important as you start editing at the really minuscule level. You can go like this. And if you hover over it, it's telling you that to zoom line timeout, you have to click Control-Shift- or Control-Shift+. For me, it's really just the Control, and I can use my zoom key. So that is a little faster for me than using these Control-Shift+ or minus keys. Okay, so you can also hit Control, zoom in and out with your mouse wheel. So you can do that. So that's these options here. Let's go through a few other settings before we actually go in and start editing the video and showing you some of the features you have there. So let's suppose you have a lot more tracks and you feel squished and you feel like you have to scroll up a lot to see all the tracks. What you can do is simply move this up like that. And now, boom, you see all these tracks right here. If you want to add a new track, you can click on plus. However, that's not really necessary, because if you do want to add a new track, you can also simply drag it here. So if I want to add a new track, if I want to add this media as a new track, boom, I just drag it here. And now this becomes a new track, right? So you don't need to necessarily click plus. And then if you right click it, you can select remove track if you want. Not really important. It really doesn't matter how many tracks you have. It's not going to affect anything. So the video is a little too small at this point, so we're gonna drag it down a little bit. However, if you find that your tracks are a little too big, you can also make them smaller like that. And that's for each individual track. If you feel like you want to make all the tracks bigger or smaller, you can play with these options right here. You can make them bigger. You can make them smaller. Don't make them too small. It's going to be hard to see. So maybe something like this. And that's going to be the idea. Now let me go down one like that. And that's how you adjust all these settings here before you get started, trying to make you feel comfortable with it so that when you edit it, you can actually see things that you edit, right? And then over here, if you click this little drop down here, you'll be able to set a marker. So there's this new little field, this new track that shows up here at the top. And if you simply click it, it's going to add a little marker. And you can add a name to it, right? So this is kind of just for your reference. And then you can add another marker here. So you can write stuff here, marker name, and you can say, hey, this is where I talk about this. This is where I talk about this. Later on, once we get into going over all these cool features and effects, I'll show you how to add a quiz. And that's going to be really cool. But for the time being, that's just the marker. So I'm going to click delete. We don't need that. I'm going to click delete, and I'm just going to hide that. And we're back to where we started. One more thing here is, or maybe a few more things before we actually get into the editing. If you right click this, you can rename the track. And you can say this one is, let's say, my images. And let's say this is the track where I'll be adding my images. Or this one I can name, my background or my webcam, whatever you want. So you can click here. You can click rename track, webcam, whatever, webcam and sound. You can also hide a track. So if you click on this little eye icon here, it's going to completely hide it. And if you make changes, so if I select anything, and let's say I want to cut something, I want to split, it will not affect this hidden one. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to undo it. So whatever changes you make when one of your media files is hidden, it will never affect it. So that's one of the ways you can, if you have something important that you want to save while you're making edits, you can simply hide it, and then you can make changes to the rest of your video, knowing that it's not going to affect this important file. You have this option. You have this little magnet here, which let me show you what that does. So let's suppose we want to split in here. I'm going to, instead of hitting split, I'm going to hit the S key like that, and it's going to automatically split it all. So let's suppose we have cases where there is space in between. So if I click on the little magnet, it's going to remove all those spaces and it's going to put everything together. Be careful with this, because if you deselect it, it will not put it back to where it was. So you have to go in and manually put it where it was. So I'm going to go in and undo, hit undo several times. So we go back and start with a clean slate. And then last but not least, you can also lock it here. So if I click on this little lock button, now I can't edit it. So I can see it. That's the difference between the eye icon and the lock. I can see it, but I can't edit it. Now this lock icon can be even better to use than the eye, because if you make edits, it's not going to affect this locked media track, but you can still see it. So these are some of the features you have here. We went through mostly everything here. Now you also have this little cursor here. So this obviously shows where in the video you want to play, and I'm going to unlock that part here so we can edit it. So what you could also do is you can expand. You can make a selection. Let's suppose I want to go over here, and I want to come over here, and I want to, for example, delete this part. So I can select this whole thing without needing to split it in separate parts. And then I can right click, and then I can choose what I want to do. So I can paste a specific element here, or I can copy this selection here, or I can delete the selection, or I can ripple delete the selection, and we'll go through some of these options here. I can also silence the audio. So if I don't want to be speaking here, I can do that. I can restore audio if you've silenced it. I can also add this time-lapse selection to the library so you can use it later on. So let's go through a few of these options. So if I delete this here, now it's just going to leave a blank space, and now I have to go in here and manually put it here. So what I like to do instead is, and by the way, if you see me going back and undoing actions, I'm clicking Control Z. So the other thing you can do is if you click here, and I like clicking ripple delete, which is Control backspace shortcut. And what that does is it automatically, it does two things. One is it automatically cuts everything in between. And the second thing is it puts everything together right away. So I don't have to go in and then move them together. And actually, the third thing it does is it stitches them together as well. So sometimes if you, so let's suppose we want to cut to this track, I'm going to hit S to cut. Now these are separate, right? So if I make edits on this file, let's suppose I drag this to be bigger, it's not going to affect this one. So let's suppose I don't want that. I don't want to have to click on every single file or every single media, right, source here to make the changes. I can select these two, I can right click, and I can click on Stitch Selected Media, and now it's going to be all one. So now I don't have to select everything individually. So that's why I like to use Ripple Delete, because it does all of that. It does delete, magnetize, right, the magnet feature here, and it stitches them together all in one. So again, I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to double click. So once you make a selection, if you double click on any specific point, it's gonna move everything back together. And so that should give you an idea of some of these options here. You can, like I said, if you select something, you can split, or you can just split all, and that's just going to automatically split everything right away. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to undo that part. And now you should have a basic idea of your setup, of how to set it up so it's convenient for you to work, some of the basic tools that you can use. So let's go in and make a few edits here with this video, real actual edits, right? So let's suppose in this video, as you can see here, there's an awkward silence. So let's see what that sounds like first.
Ads within the Google.
And so here, let's suppose we want to delete this part, right? So we don't like how it's quiet, how it's silent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, because I'm a perfectionist and I want to make this as close to perfect as possible. And I'm going to select the area that I want to remove. In this case, let's suppose this area. And I can click on Control backspace to ripple delete, or you can right click and you can simply click on ripple delete. And so now, if you recall, there was an awkward silence, but let's listen to it now.
The Google, within the whole Google.
Let's see it again, see if you see it.
Within the Google, within the whole Google.
So see how that silence is now gone, right? And we can do the same thing here. We can select this option here, select it, and hit ripple delete. If you come here,
ads within the Google, within the whole Google.
And there you go. The whole thing is now gone, right? So that's how you basically edit that stuff. Now, let's suppose I do something or say something I don't want to say, but I still want the video to play. So let's suppose over here,
things like that. And then,
so let's suppose for some reason I don't want people to hear me say things like that. So what I can do is I can select this part here, drag it, and you can see that I'm speaking here because of these little bumps, right? So these are like these audio waves that you can tell where I'm talking. So I'm confident that I've selected only the areas where you can actually hear me. Then I'm gonna right click and I can click silence audio, and let's hear it. Let's hear it now.
and then as you do,
And you can hear anything, right? So I'm going to zoom out again. So these are some of the basic edits we've done. I will cover green screen and we'll work on this a little bit later as well. So don't worry, we'll get into that. Now, some of these options here, let's go through some of these. So you can also split these tracks if you choose to. So you can click on separate audio and video. And now the video is going to be me here and the audio is going to be me speaking. I don't really see necessarily a need for that. For me, it doesn't really matter. But if you like to keep things organized and maybe you like to keep separate tracks with separate names, you can certainly do that. So let's click on this audio track. So this is where you can change the sound. You can mix it to mono, where it'll sound more like it's coming from the same source. You can auto normalize loudness. Not exactly sure what that is, to be honest. It's just always on for me and it seems to work fine. So let's suppose we want to select a specific section of the video and we want to make it louder or make it quieter. So we can select here. So let's suppose this part here. Now we don't want to ripple delete anything, right? So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to select this specific track. We're going to click on S to split it. We can come here and let's suppose we're going to zoom in again. And we're going to go over here and we're going to hit S. Now we're going to zoom out to make sure that we see this whole thing. And now as you can see, we can just select this one individual piece. And let's suppose we want to decrease the quietness. So we're going to decrease it here to, let's say, 20%. And by the way, you can change the sound two ways. One is over here, and another way is, as you can see with this little bar here. You can change that. I do like, they are two separate things. So if you change it here, it's not going to change this. I do like adjusting the volume here just because you can see the percentage. Whereas over here, if you adjust it, you kind of have to, eye it and make sure that you did it correctly. Because if you take it off the mark that you like, you might not be able to get back to it because you really have to play with the mouse and make sure that it's perfect placement, right? So that's why I like to use this instead. So we've made this to be 20% of the normal sound. So let's listen and see what it sounds like.
you can use any email you want. You don't.
So you could hear it, but it's just way quieter, right? Now let's make it a little bit louder. If you do 150.
You can use any email you want. You don't need it.
As opposed to,
and you will be able to go through a very quick.
So point is, it is louder, right? So that's how you do that. Now for this webcam, you can adjust the scale. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. You can change the opacity if you want to make it transparent during certain points. You can play with the rotation. So, rotate it if you like. You can play with the position of where it is. And you can change the width, which is kind of same as with the scale. Now here's the thing. All these options here, on the right side, you can play by actually clicking on this video. So I'm going to zoom into this video by using my mouse scroll wheel on the video itself. And I'm going to hit space and move with the mouse. And what hitting space and with the mouse does is basically it selects this option here for me where I can choose which part of the video I want to see. And so I'm going to go back to this option. I'm going to not hit space anymore. And over here, as you can see, if I make this video smaller or larger, it's going to adjust the scale and the width and the height. So that's that. I can change the position. Let me zoom out and hit on space again so I can move it. And hit space. If I want to change the position, I can do that. And as you can see, it changes the position without me having to go in there and actually change those. I can also make this a little bigger and put it anywhere I like. And what it does is it has this cool little snapping feature with the yellow lines, as you can see, which tells me whether my clip here is in the middle, it's on the side, anywhere like that. And then rotation, you can also rotate by this little option here. If I can select it, let me see if I can zoom in to this right there. And that's how you can rotate it, and it's going to rotate that. And if you want to go back to the way it was, boom, you just click that. All good and dandy. Now, one more thing, you can also crop this video, if this is too big, right? I don't want to see those textbooks. You can either click on this option here and simply crop it like that, and that's it. Or you can click on Alt, hold down the Alt key. So I'm holding down Alt and I can crop it more. Now, let me crop it. Oops, I cropped a little too much. What do I do? Quite simple. Camtasia saves everything you do. So if I click Alt again and I go back, it's going to uncrop it. Quite simple, very straightforward. You have the options here, or click the Alt key. Again, this is everything if you're on a Windows. Click on Alt or hold Alt and then drag this, and that's gonna be the process. And I'm going to zoom out of this, or over here, you can choose to make it fit. So the whole video fits in here, or you can play around with the settings here, make it 50%, make it 200%, which is zoomed in. I'm gonna make it fit. What you could also do is if you have 2 monitors, maybe you can detach canvas. And now it's going to be, oops, no, we don't wanna do that. We wanna move this thing here. You can move this around anywhere you like. And so I'm just going to attach it back here. And that's the idea. Now, I think this is a little too big. So if you want to be really specific, you can go in and maybe make this 35%. And that looks okay. And this, as you can see, there's black space underneath. We don't want that. So we've moved the video out. So I'm going to I'm going to click the video here. As you can see, it's got those little 4, like a little cross, I guess. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to move it so that it has the little yellow lines around it. See here? See the little yellow lines around it? And so that is telling me that it's perfectly in position, perfectly in place. And now there's no more black lines. And now I can move this and boom, put it right there where the yellow lines are. And so that's the editing for this feature here. Let me move this down a little bit so we can see more. And now for this track, which is the background, you can do the same thing. You can move it around, and as you can see, it's going to change the position, but then you can put it back in place. Now you can also change the sound for this track, and that is because that's the background sound. So if there are any, let me put this back, if there are any mouse clicks or things like that, you can simply select this, and it's going to adjust the sound for that. You can also click on the mouse, and you can adjust the scale of your mouse. So this is actually a really cool feature. So this is something that I use myself. So
No, you don't.
let me zoom out and see if I can show you. So I'm going to zoom out of this track. I'm going to click Control and my mouse wheel, right? And let's go here. So see how the mouse is, the size of that mouse? We can make it a little bigger, and that way it'll be easier to see. So we can make it, let's say, 300%. And then now the mouse is easier to see. If you want to make it super big, if you're having fun, that's a huge mouse, right? And you can edit cursor path. So the cool thing about recording a video in Camtasia is that Camtasia has a clear view of your mouse. Like it really identifies it. And so what you're able to do is to edit the cursor path. And so if you click here and you click Simplify Existing Path, you're going to give it a few seconds to load, and then you'll be able to adjust the path. And you can say, okay, I want the cursor to go over here, actually, not where it went before. Right? And now look at that. The cursor is going to go over there, which wasn't there before. So if I click on Undo, the cursor wasn't there in the first place, right? But Camtasia can do really cool things if you're recording within Camtasia. So I'm just going to remove that here. We're going to zoom out. And I think we went through most of the options here. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so most of the other stuff is going to be covered in here, I think. But let's right-click here and see what else we can do. Yeah, so quiz, we're going to do all that. Split all, we went through that. Let me right-click here. So let's go through a few of these options here. So you can group media elements together. So let's suppose, yeah, these are split. Or let's suppose I want to group all of these together here. So I don't want to have separate media files. I want to have one media file in one group. So this will make it easier for you to edit once you get to these options over here. So or let's suppose I want to select everything, or you know what? Here, let me do this. Let me right click here and split all. And let's suppose I want to group this part right here. So then you can select that, you can right click it, and then you can click on group. And now it's going to put everything under this one group. So if you make any edits, all you have to do is apply the edits to this one group, and it's going to apply to everything in that group. And then if you click on the little plus icon, it's going to open up this little group tab right there. And now you can go in and make these changes. So I'm going to close out of that. That's how you group it. So if you right click it again, you can click on group, and it's just going to put it back to default. Let's go through some of the other options here by right-clicking here. So right-clicking any element, or let's select everything, see if there's anything that we missed. So delete, copy, paste, duplicate. Pretty straightforward. Duplicate is like an automatic copy paste. You can edit audio, silence audio, restore audio, add clip speed. Yeah, so clip speed is a cool feature. We'll get into that under audio effects as well. You can update media. Yeah, so nothing too major here. So some of these features could be quite redundant in terms of, for example, if I want to copy, I have the options over here to copy. I have the options over here to copy. I have the options here to copy. But my point is, don't be overwhelmed if you see so many options, because most of them are simply repetitions, right? Like copy paste, you see here, 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 and then in all those other options that I mentioned. So that's basically it for some of the basic edits. So let's go through these options here on the left-hand side, and that will also give you a better idea of some of these other options here, such as add to library or clip speed, things like that. So let's go from top to bottom. So the media portion here is where you add your media, whether it be images, sounds, recordings. So if you import another file, it's going to show up here. Now, if you click on library, this is really cool. Camtasia has a built-in library of really cool effects you can use. So you can go through all of them. And so these are the 2022 options. Like I said, you have the YouTube, you have the default, and then you have the 2021 options as well. So one thing I really like, you can play around with this. One thing I really like is lower thirds. I really like this option here. And so what this does is, let me show you what that is it adds an automatic group that Camtasia created for you, a group of a bunch of different elements added together that look like this. Let me play the video, and let me actually silence this video just so you guys can hear me talk as well. I'm gonna hit silence. And it's gonna look like this. So it's gonna have like a little thing that shows up, like call it a pop-up, something like that, that will tell people what you're looking for, right? Or what they're looking for. And the one I used in my previous video was this shimmer one. So it looks like this. And you can have your point here. So let's suppose I'm describing how to manage Google Ads. So I'm going to double click it. I'm going to click it here, and I'm going to say, step 1, manage your account or whatever. So that's the idea. And then you can close out of that tab. And then if you play it again, it's going to go like this. And you can edit everything you want. So in here, this is totally editable, totally customizable. You can change the colors here. You can change the time. So if you open it up, and we are going to zoom in, control, and zoom in again. You can go in here and adjust all these options here, drop shadow, and the speed is going to be over here. So the speed at which this happens is with these arrows, which we will get into as well once we go into animation. So I'll show you how to do the arrows, which is kind of cool. And so like if you make this arrow shorter, then it's going to go faster. Now it's going to not go as slow, right? So fully customizable. I really like these lower thirds, but you can play with all of these. Like they have really cool intros. So if you want to add a little intro, so let's zoom out of our video. And let's drag this a little bit more to the right to give it space. Let's say, I don't know, let's line wipe. And we're gonna select everything again. We're gonna move it back, and let's see what this intro looks like. Boom, right? And then the cool thing is here, again, we're going to zoom in. You can either double click it or double click that part here at the bottom. And then you can come in here and you can edit these. So let's say my channel, Ivan Mena, right? Ivan Mena Inc. maybe. Company name, you can do that. You can change the website. And then if you click on any specific element, it's going to tell you what to change. So in this case, ivanmena.com. And then we want to change this as well. We don't want it to say Camtasia. We want to say Google Ads tutorial. And boom, right? You have your intro. You don't have to pay a designer for your intro. So really cool stuff. You have the intro, you have the outro. You can do that as well. You have many different icons. And then, of course, if you go to Camtasia 2022, they have a whole bunch of other things as well. So really cool options here. So let's go into favorites real quick. So favorites are basically any of these options here on the left-hand side. You will be able to favorite and then use later on. So you can't favorite any of these options here because they're kind of already favorited. But as we go through some of these other options here, I will show you how to favorite it. And then it's going to be here under your favorites tab, and you can simply drag and drop. So let's go into annotations. And so if you just click on this little star there, it's just going to favorite and it's going to show it over here, all right? So pretty simple. So these annotations, they consist of a bunch of different shapes, a bunch of different little chat boxes, little arrows, little shapes like this. And also you can go into all, and then it's going to show you all the different shapes they have. So sometimes these can come in handy if you wanna like add a little pop-up that describes something in more detail. You also have blur. You can have something that kind of has an animation of being drawn, and then you have these keystroke callouts. So as I was telling you, sometimes, hey, I clicked on Control Z, right? You can go in and you can move this here, and then this basically just is going to show it here. You can also import this one here, for example, or not import, but add. And then if you click on properties here, if you change this up, so let's say you want to say Control Z, right? So all you have to do is you don't have to actually type it in. You just have to actually select the key, and then it's just going to show it. So if you are making a visual presentation and you want to show people what it looks like, you can just select it there. You can choose the style, traditional, outline, so on and so forth. So that's kind of cool. Let me quickly show you. So the blurs are pretty straightforward. If you want to blur this information, you can do that. You can also make it smaller, make it bigger, straightforward. You have arrows, you have shapes. Like I said, if you want to drag this little shape here, and let's delete this blur, let's add this shape instead. We can add it here. Now on this shape, we can either add separate text to it, or we can just go into here and use a shape already with text on it. So let's suppose we want to add this here, and we want to say, check out this tutorial. You can do that. We can zoom out a little bit. Oops, let me select that. Let me zoom out, and then you can make this bigger, make this smaller. You can change the font family, change the size here, which automatically makes the box bigger. So you'll have to go back in and kind of just adjust it. Just a bunch of different options here. So this changes the font, the size, but then over here, if you click on box, it's going to change the box. So what color do you want to make the box? Or do you want to make it a solid color? Do you want to make it a gradient? Do you want to make it, like a red color, whatever you like. And then if you click on default, you click on manage themes, you can set what colors you want to be as like your theme. And then what it's going to do is it's going to add the colors right over here. And it's just going to be a convenient way for you to just automatically do that. You can do that. Now let's say you don't like the what do you call it, the border. You can go in here and you can change it to blue or whatever. Right? Now, another cool thing you can do is if you click over here, you can click on this little eyedropper tool. And let's suppose I want to make this color the same thing as the background here, or the same thing as this over here. All I'm going to do is click on that dropper and then select that color, and it's going to do that. And then boom. Now I can make it bigger, move it anywhere I like. You can also do the same thing with something like a call out like that, right? Which is going to be like, hey, this is me talking. This is me telling you something. So play around with it, really cool stuff. Now, one thing I really do like here as well is these drawings here. So sometimes if you're making a video and you're saying, hey, these are the do's, these are the don'ts, or this is good, this is bad, you can go in and, for example, drag this, and it's going to draw a little check mark for you. And then you have the edit settings here. So you can click here. I can make it, you can select which color you want, or you can add the hex code there. And then let's say I want to make this a little thicker. And I want to rotate it a little bit, make it like that, and then maybe rotate it back a little bit. So I'm gonna go like that. And you can also adjust the draw time. So it's automatically gonna be drawn, which is cool.
Massage behind my shoulder.
So boom, it's got that little check mark, but if you want to decrease the time, you can either use your arrow keys, which in this case, it goes too much. Or you can just type it in. So 0.5, and I'm going to click enter. And now it's going to be drawn even faster.
Behind my shoulder.
Boom. So cool effects here, guys. Play around with them. All of these settings you can add as kind of add-ons. Now, another cool thing is you have transitions. So transitions is basically how do you want this image to show up? So if you've ever worked with PowerPoint, this is how your images, right? This is like the animation part of PowerPoint where you can choose how you want it to show up. So let's go into library and let's add something. Let's add some image or something like that. Let's go into Camtasia and let's add maybe here motion background. So we can add maybe like this. This mountain looks very pretty. And as you can see here, it's moving. Just so you know, it doesn't matter whether it's an image or a video, right? Everything that I'm going to show you here with these transitions and behaviors are all going to apply evenly, whether it's an image or a video. So let me maybe hide this, lock it, or just hide it, and then you can see it looks like this. And yeah, we can keep those. Now let's suppose, actually, yeah, so we're gonna hide the volume, but I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna make it smaller. And let me show you just how it would look like if you add all these different animations to it. So we'll go into transitions again, and you can play around with it, right? So there's a bunch of different options you have. So let's suppose we wanna add a center slice. We're simply gonna click on it and drag it there. And now here's what it's gonna look like. So it's center sliced. So it goes in from the side and then it gets sliced. So that's one option. And then it's going to do the same at the end. As you can see here, if you zoom in, it's got this little green thing there. That means that a transition has been added. And then it's going to do the same for the outro. If you don't like it, you say, oh, shouldn't have done that. You can either click undo or select these. So click on that and click delete. You can add this, let's say checkerboard. You can add it here. Let's see what that looks like. Boom. Now it's going to be added as a checkerboard. And then it's going to do the same thing at the end as well. And if you want to adjust the speed at which that happens, let's suppose you think this is too slow, you can simply drag this like that, make it go slower. So now it's going to even, now it's even going to show up even slower. Or you can say, okay, that's way too slow. I'm going to make it go faster. And then you have the little timestamp there, as you can see. So as I drag it, it says 14, that's I think 15 milliseconds. Yeah, so this is 1 second, and then this is 15 milliseconds, I think, or 1/4 of a second, maybe. Anyway, that's like the numbers that you need to, that you'll get familiar with. So you do that, and now boom, that's a little faster, right? And then over here, do that. And this is, by the way, when you went into edit and when you went into preferences, when you went into timing, this is going to be your transition. So the default is 1 second. If you want to say, okay, I don't want it to be 1 second, I want it to be 0.1 second, or I want it to be, let's say, 0.5 seconds. And so now whenever you're going to drag this transition in, the default is going to be 0.5 second as opposed to 1 second. And so that's how you do that. So look at all these transitions, see what you like. The one I use the most is the sliding one. You scroll down, it's going to be somewhere here. I think slide in, slide left. So that's the one I normally use. That's the one that's pretty standard. Slide in, and then the fade one I use a lot as well. So those are the ones that I use, but your option. And then that slides from slides to the left. Let's suppose I want it to slide to the right. Boom, now it's sliding to the right, right? So these are all that, and I have the fade one in here. So that's the transition. Behaviors is kind of the same thing, but it does have more editing options, more customization options available for you. So let's delete this. And let's see what some of these look like. So let's say we're going to add sliding. So the same thing, right? It's also a slide. So it's going to slide here. But as you can see, there is a little difference. So in this case, the element itself slides from left to right. Whereas under transitions, the element doesn't slide in from the side. The element is already there, but it transitions within itself in the same position. So it doesn't slide from the side. So that's one of the differences. The other one is what I mentioned first, is that there are just more customization options. So if you click here, you click on properties again, you will be able to adjust all the settings here. So as you can see here, it kind of flashes, right? Which I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is click on during, and then I'm going to say style none. And now it's not going to do that little weird flashing opacity effect as it slides. So it's just going to slide in, and then at the end, it's going to slide out. Now, let's suppose I don't like the direction. Let's suppose I like how it slides in from here, from the left, but then I don't want to cover my face when it slides. So I want to slide it back out the same way it came from. So in that case, I'm going to say direction right. No, I don't think that's the one. So I think it's going to be, oh, sorry, because that's the in one. Okay, so the out one, we want to slide it to the left. There you go. So now it's going to slide back to the left, right? So this has more customization options, I think, than transitions, but it's also a little different in that the element flies in or transitions into your picture, as opposed to transitions where the element is already there and it transitions onto itself, if that makes any sense. And there's that. And then, of course, over here, you can also toggle between the actual animation that you added, or in this case, behavior, or the specific element right there. So there's that. Let's go into animations. Animations is really cool. So this is basically where you'll be able to zoom in and out of the picture. And if you click on animations, it has some default animations, like if you want to just scale down or scale to fit or remove the opacity of a certain image. So if I drag this here, and it adds a little arrow. As you can see, if I go here now, okay, so let's hide that image. Now, as you can see my face, right? Because we dragged this onto this webcam element. We grabbed the no opacity, and it's going to transition into no opacity. And if we say full opacity, and we want it to be right here, now it's going to transition back into full opacity. However, you don't have to use these default ones. If you click on zoom and pan, so what I like to do is I'm going to use a shortcut, and that is going to be Shift A, okay? So let's go over here. So I'm going to click Shift A, and that's going to add an arrow automatically. And then here, as you can see here, make sure that the end of the arrow is red, because then that means that you're editing that part. So if I make any changes here, it might create another arrow. So you want to make sure that it's, in this case, let's say deselect it. So over here, I'm gonna click on it, and now as you can see, it's not red, but now it's red, right? So make sure it's red. Boom, now it's red. So that's important. Here again, just to show you, there you go, it's white, now it's red. So that's when you know that you're actually editing what happens after this animation takes place. So over here, let's suppose I wanna make, or let's go with the opacity one. We can remove my opacity. And so if we zoom out a little bit, it's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna remove me. And then if I click on Shift A again to add another arrow, I'm gonna add opacity, and it's going to add me back into the picture. So that's how you use these arrows. What you can also do is if you select this option here and you simply automatically zoom in, so you select, let's say, this area like that, it automatically creates arrows for you. So that's how you do it without clicking Shift A. However, Shift A is just easier to do. And you can select which area you want to show. So you can do that. And it automatically creates two arrows, one for the screen and one for my face. Now my face is gone. I don't want that. I want it to still show up whatever I'm showing. You can simply delete the webcam zoom in, and this one still stays. And so now it's going to zoom in while my face is still there. So it's up to you how you want to do it. If you want your face to stay where it was, then you just do that. And then you can of course come in here and again make sure it's red, right? Make sure it's red when you're editing. You can adjust the percentage. So let's say, oh, this is too big or this is too small. If we make it 75%, it's going to show more of the screen. You make it 150, it's going to show less of the screen. And you can also click actual size, which defaults it to 100%, which is the actual size of my computer. So in this case, this is how much it would actually cover on my computer, because my full screen, right, is taken up by Camtasia over here. And then you can scale to fit, to make it fit as a shortcut. So let's suppose we want to zoom into this point over here as I'm showing something. I don't know what I'm showing, but let's remove that. So let's see what it looks like. Boom. So hey, look at this website. Look at this URL. This is where you have to go. And now I'm done. I don't want to do that anymore. So now I can simply, I prefer using Shift A. And now I'm going to say scale to fit. And then I'm going to remove this. And now it's going to go back to the default. So it's going to look like that. And that is it for the zoom and pan. So you can play around with the arrow. The arrow comes in handy. You can do anything. You can move images if you want, as like with an arrow. You can change the opacity, change the zoom. So let me add another arrow here. Shift A again to add an arrow. And let's suppose I want to, or not this one. Let's suppose I want to move my face over here. So I'm going to do Shift A, and then I'm going to move my face to the left side here. And so now, as you can see, it's going to move it right there. And if you're saying, oh, that's too fast, or oh, that's too slow, you can also adjust the arrow like that. As you can see, it has the duration, that's 2 seconds. So it's going to take 2 seconds to move my face all the way. 1, 2. Or, nope, that's too slow. We want to move it down a little bit. We can do that. Boom, now that's a little faster, right? So you can do anything you want as long as you're able to kind of see it over here. So the position, the scale, opacity, the width, anything to do with any of these options or these options, if you use the arrow, you can change and make it show up. So that's how you use that. So we're gonna delete that, we're gonna zoom out. Next you have here is the cursor effects. So this is really cool. You can highlight your cursor and make it clear where your cursor is in case people don't see it, people might get lost, especially if it's white on white. So that's why I like recording in Camtasia, because this only works in Camtasia. If you import an MP4 file, Camtasia is not going to know where your mouse cursor is. It's not going to know. So you can, for example, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to drag it here. And now, as you can see, wherever the heck my mouse is, I don't even know where it is. Let's see if we can find our mouse. Here's the mouse. Now there's a little circle around the mouse. Let's go in and make this cursor normal. So let's reset it back to default. There you go. So now if you zoom in over here, you see a little yellow circle. Now you can change that. If you click on this media file and you go over here, you can change it to blue. You can change it to green. You can change it to whatever color you like. Any color over here. You can change it to red if you like. It's not moving. I don't know why it's really slow. There you go. You can make it red. You can change the opacity if you like as well, and make it not super like bright red, right? Make it a little opacity. You can increase the size as well. You can increase the softness. Make it kind of more, what would you call it? Soft, I guess, right? Make it more like strict, more clear that it's a circle versus more of like a hazy circle. You can do that. You can ease in and out as well. There is no ease and out for this one. The ease and out only applies because we added the arrows. But in this case, it doesn't apply because we want this arrow to be there all the time. So if we click play, as you can see here, the little circle follows the arrow everywhere. So that's a good way to just kind of keep track of where the mouse is, right? Which is something I should be using, because what I have been using is I've been using these rings, which is when you click. So you have these options too, where you can, in addition to showing where the mouse is, you can also make rings around your cursor when you left click versus when you right click. So if you right click, do you want to show a ripple effect? Do you want to show a ring? So in this case, let's suppose we added a ring. So now whenever I click, there's going to be a ring that's going to show up. So keep in mind, we have the highlight here from the cursor effect, and now we have the ring. And so the ring, let's say if I click a button, I want it to show up in blue. And if you click on this little arrow there, the arrow pointing up, you're going to see when the effects are taking place. So here under rings, you'll see here's an effect right there. So there's the little circle. And so this means that's when I'm clicking on it. So let's see what happens when I click. Boom. So I just clicked. I don't know if you saw that. There was a little blue. Did you see that? That little blue right there? Let me go back by using the comma. I'm going to use comma to go back. There, see that? That little blue, right? So that's the ring because I left clicked. And if you want to make it bigger, like I said, you can change the size, make it more obvious, make it thicker, easier to see, make the duration longer if you like. You can play around with all these options. Quite straightforward. And it makes it obvious where your cursor is, especially if you're showing your screen. So that's kind of what I'm using now, but I do realize it's a good idea for me to use this thing as well. And so I've implemented it in this video, hopefully. Once I make the edits. So that's that. Really cool cursor effects. You have a voice narration, straightforward, not going to spend too much time here. You can paste a script and then you can simply start voice recording and you're going to record your script without having to record the whole video. So pretty simple. Audio effects. So this is really cool. So let's open up our audio file again here. Let's, yeah, we can use this one. So let's say we want to use this audio file here. Let's cut off a portion. Let me cut off a portion where I'm talking. Let me click S to split. I'm gonna hit S here. And in this case, if you hear me,
It's going to be as fresh as...
So I'm just talking, right? But let's suppose I want that to fade in a little bit. So let's suppose you're adding a music track and you don't want to scare people by having this loud music track right off the bat. Maybe you want it to fade in a little bit to give them time. So you can simply click on, you can use this fade in. And what that does is that kind of starts off with a low volume and then slowly builds over time. So listen to it now.
It's going to be as fresh as possible. I specifically...
So I don't know if you heard that, but my voice started off very low and then it went up. So this is a good way to ease into it, ease people into it. Again, especially if you're playing music, you don't want to just start off the video with a boom, 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 you know, unexpected video, like, or unexpected music. You want them to kind of ease into it. So that's a great idea. You can fade out as well.
Specifically waited for the new year.
And so then I've gotten quieter if you want to, you know, have a nice end for your music or whatever. You have noise removal, which is cool if you have noise in the background. I don't really use it right now. I have a good mic, I think. But if you are not using an optimal mic or there's lots of background noise, if you use this, you just drag it here. And it's going to help you remove noise. So you can adjust the sensitivity and amount. There's no right answer for what number you should do. You would have to play around with it and then replay the video and see, or replay the audio and see what sounds good. You can also adjust the clip speed. This is cool. So if I drag this here, you have all the options here, or sorry, here. And let's suppose I want this to go 2 times faster. So I'm going to do that. So now if we listen to me,
as fresh as possible, I specifically waited for the new.
That's 2 times as fast, okay? So if you want to speed up some parts, maybe you're showing a part of a video that's very long and boring, you can speed it up, speed that part up. So there's that. Visual effects, you have the same thing here. You have really cool features. You can add borders around certain elements. You can change the color. You can also change the clip speed. So to match with this part here, let's suppose, select that. Or actually, no, I think it's this one, right? Or yeah, we can do me talking. Let's zoom in, make sure it's good. I'm gonna hit S, and that's fine. If we click on clip speed, you can adjust the speed here. Let's say 2, and now this is gonna go by 2 times faster.
As fresh as possible, I specifically waited.
As you can see there, I was moving 2 times faster. Play around again with all these options. There's no point in me going over every single one because all of you might have different requirements, different needs. Some of you might not even use most of them. And then you have this cool feature, which is the green screen effect, which will allow you to remove a color. And so as you can see here, I have this green background here, yeah, that I left on purpose. And so if let's suppose we want to move it for the whole video here. I'm going to drag it here. Only on this one, right? Only on the webcam. We don't want to remove a background on the whole screen that I'm showing. So we've selected here, and now here is this green screen effect settings that you can use. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to first use the eyedropper tool. And I'm going to hover over and click on this color so it removes the color. Now this was a little too much. It removed some of my hair. So what we can do is we can either remove the softness or play with a tolerance. So you're going to have to play around with those. So I'm going to remove the softness here, and boom, that looks kind of good. Minus this part, it cut off a little too much. But that's as low as it gets, it's 0. And as you can see here, it completely removed my background. As you can see, there's no background because I'm using the green screen effect. You can also play with a tolerance. So if you make it bigger, it's going to be more intense. If you make it smaller, so let's suppose I really want that little mic thing, right? I don't know if you guys saw it. This little mic thing was cut off. So I'm going to reduce it. And the more I reduce it, the more it shows. But on the other hand, it shows more green. So I'm going to take it down a notch, maybe like that. The little bit of green is okay. I don't think you can see it when I'm not really moving. Maybe you can a little bit if you really pay attention, but
here will be exactly the same as you should see on.
You would really have to go in and really look at it. So there's that. I think we covered over most of the settings here. Let me go over captions before we go over interactivity, and then before we finally close off the video with how to export and stuff like that. So captions, really cool. You can simply add captions by actually, if you click here, you can import captions. So if you pay somebody to do it, you can export captions once you're done. Or you can write your own captions. So, hey, this is Ivan, and in this video, I'll show you how to do this. And then you can add another clip here. So if you click on plus, it's now going to add another blank caption space, and then you can simply change the timing of this. So let's suppose I'm saying that from 1.48 in the video to this part, and then over here I'm saying something else. I'm saying. This is a great way to do this because of that. And then you want to add another one, you go here and you add another one and you drag this. And so when you replay it, it's not going to look that huge, but it's going to look like this. And it's kind of just built-in captions. So looks pretty cool. And yeah, so you can do that the long way if you like, or you can just pay somebody and then you can just import captions. Up to you, depending on how big the video is, what you're doing, and all that cool stuff. So that's that. Interactivity is a pretty new feature. It's really cool. So let me show you how to do it. The thing with this is you can't just upload a video, for example, with a quiz. So it has to be hosted on your own server, basically. You cannot just upload the video to YouTube. That's the downside of this, but let me show you what it looks like. Let's try to keep things organized. Okay, that one's, can't see that. Let's move that down here. So let's suppose we want to add a quiz, let's say over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select interactivity. I'm going to say add quiz to timeline. And now I can ask a question. You have a choice. You can add multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answer, true and false. So for example, you can say, what's your favorite brand of monkey? And then you can write your answers here. I like gorilla. I like chimpanzee. Or I like orangutan. And you can write these answers here, and the answers are going to show up in the video. But let's go over some of the other options before I show you what it looks like. And so you're going to select the right answer here by clicking the right one. So the right answer, let's say, is gorilla. And then if correct, you can say, great job. And then here's the kicker. Here's the cool thing. So for the action, let's say if correct, we want to take them to a website. So we're going to enter my website here, ivanmana.com. And if incorrect, say, might want to review. And then you can enter the time. In this case, we set the time as 18 seconds. And so we're prompting people, for example, to re-review their content. So we're going to send them back to this 18-second mark. So let's see what the quiz looks like. So we can preview quiz. And let's suppose I enter chimpanzee, submit answer, incorrect. You might want to review. Okay, so we're going to click on continue. And generally, it should take us back. In this case, yes, it doesn't. But let's suppose we enter gorilla. We're going to submit answer. We're going to click on continue. And boom, it's going to take us to my website, which is being reworked. So expect a much better looking website very soon. So that's the idea. That's this interactive quiz. So really cool stuff. Allows you to interact with your users, allows you to add a quiz. And then as you can see here, the quiz is going to show up at this time. And it's showing up right over here now. And if you want to add another quiz, you just click here and you say add another quiz, and boom, now you have a second quiz. Or if you want to delete it, you select the quiz, you click delete. So that's for this point here. So I think we've covered pretty much everything here. You can go home, back to the home page, you can record. And by the way, for the library here, if you click on download here, you can click on download more assets, and Camtasia has a lot more assets than you can download, a lot more different intros, music, lower thirds. So if you don't like these options here, or you just want to explore before you actually get started or even look at these, definitely take a look at all the other assets that they have as well. So that's the idea there. Now, just briefly going through some of these options, a lot of them are pretty straightforward. So you can open a new project, you can open an existing project, you can import files, export files, which we'll get to in a second. You can sign in, you can save as, obviously. You can click edit. This one has all the basic features. So let's select something. Let's select this. You can click edit. You can cut, copy, paste, duplicate, delete, ripple, delete, right? Split selected, group it, select everything, unselect it all, jump to a specific section, jump to beginning. So all of these options pretty much are over here. Everything that we've already covered is pretty much here. So that's edit. If you click on modify, everything in the modify section is over here on the left-hand side. So you can add behavior, which is here. You can add animation, which is here. You can add an effect, which is a cursor effect, visual effect, which is all here. You can add captions, markers, quizzes, everything that's here, okay? Now you can click view, so you can view different things. So enable canvas snapping. So this is the one I like. So that's the one that shows this little yellow thing. It allows me to snap in position, so I know it's accurate. So if you click on view and you disable it, as you can see, the yellow thing is gone, and now I have no idea if I'm in the center or not, but I have more freedom. But I do like this option. Then you have timeline snapping, so it snaps kind of all these things to make them fit nicely. You can hide properties, which is just that, which you can just click there. You can hide it. Canvas, yeah, so you can zoom in, zoom out. Timeline, you can zoom in, zoom out, basic stuff. Export and help. Okay, so I think that pretty much does it for all that stuff. So exporting video. So you can export as a local file, as a basic MP4. If you click here, yes, okay, so back to the point I was telling you, you can't just import the quizzes as an MP4. It has to be imported with a smart player. So for a smart player, you have to click on export. You have to click on file here, and you have to save it as a smart player. And then Camtasia is going to give you all the files once you select, let's say, up to 1080. You're going to click next. You're going to click publish. Camtasia is going to give you all the options you need. I mean, all the files you need to import this onto your website that's hosted by you. And then you'll be able to upload it to your website specifically, and it will have the interactive quiz. You cannot just save it with a quiz with these interactive options as an MP4 file and use it on YouTube. You can't do that. You can do that. The other cool thing is you can also save this like automatically to YouTube. So Camtasia will automatically integrate with YouTube and paste it there. That's really cool. What I use is I click on legacy local file here. And there are some cool features here that you can use to export the file. So if you click on add edit preset, first of all, let me just show you this. You can create a new preset for you. So you can name this, you can say new preset, and then you can make it smart player or make it just M4A. Smart player is okay. I usually just leave it at that. You can click on next, and then you can play around with all these options to customize it for you. So let's suppose, my size is 4K. So it's going to be 3840, I think, by It is not that. I think 4K resolution is this, 3840 by 2160. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might be. I don't remember. But something like that, that's 4K. And then for the video size, same thing. So you can do that. And now automatically, whenever you upload a video, it's going to be in these settings, or whenever you export. Video settings, you can choose the frame rate, key frame rate, quality of your video. Audio settings, you can choose the options. So you want to add a table of contents. I haven't really used that. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Quizzing, right? You want to have quizzes in there. Allow viewer to fast forward video, of course. You can click next, and then here you can add a watermark. This is pretty cool too. And if you select that option, you click on options, you can choose more details about where you want the watermark to show. Like, do you want it smack dab in the middle of the video? Imagine your watermark, a huge watermark smack dab in the middle of the video. And then you can, so you can choose where you want it to be. I have used watermarks in the past. I think for some of the bigger videos, it could get annoying, especially if I'm showing a lot of the screen and I'm zooming in a lot. I think it could get annoying, so I usually have it off. And then once you're done with that, you click finish. And now this preset, this new preset is gonna be right there. And now you can, I'm gonna remove this preset, or let me just keep it for now. And then what you can do here is you can select here this new preset. You can say next. You can say, so this is about the quiz. So because we have a quiz here, it's asking us all these questions. So let me just remove the quiz because most of you won't have it. Most of you are just doing regular videos. So let me come back here. Let me say new preset. With a quiz, you just select next and then you just export it like that as an MP4 file. And then you're just going to select where you want to save it, and it's going to export it. You're going to click finish, and it's going to export it. The cool thing with Camtasia is it's going to export it as a complete file. And so you're going to have everything in that file, all the images, all the media, all the music, everything that you added to this file, everything is going to be there. So really convenient. If you want a quick file, quick export, you just click on save as an MP4, and boom, it's going to export it quickly. But because I have a specific preset, mine is YouTube, which is 3840 by 2160. I'm going to save it as YouTube. And yes, it will lose captions. That's okay. And then I'm going to choose where I want to save it. I'm going to export it. And like I said, it's going to export it. It's going to have all the files there, including the MP4 file that you need. So that is the tutorial on how to use Camtasia. It's almost 2023, so it's going to be applicable in 2023. And I hope you guys found this video valuable. If you did find value, definitely take a look at my YouTube channel at youtube.com/IvanMana. I have almost 500 videos at this point, completely free, showing you various online marketing tools, showing you how to make money online, different traffic sources, completely free content. So Facebook ads, Google ads, all that stuff. Definitely take a look. And again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you have any questions or you want me to cover any other specific software program, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to look at it and see if I can make another tutorial on that. Other than that, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.